The speech we're about to watch by Bobby Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, is one of my favorite political speeches of all time. And it's not because it is somehow rhetorically advanced or even coherent in its message. But what is most remarkable and incredible about this speech is, one, Bobby Kennedy had no more than 30 minutes to prepare what he was going to say. For the most part, it's an impromptu delivery. And second is the environment in which he's giving this speech. The background of this presentation is that Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was just assassinated. And Bobby Kennedy is in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he wants to speak to the people who, one, many of which have never heard the news, and two, he doesn't know what the reactions are going to be. He's hearing that there are riots happening all over the United States in large metropolis areas, and he's advised by his staff not to deliver this speech to the people of Indianapolis. He decides against that judgment and gives what is considered to be one of the most profound improvisations in American rhetoric.
Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings. He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in.
Notice the care and the calculation by which he is choosing his words. Now, it's understandable that one would slow down the delivery of their speech and be more deliberate with your word choice, especially given the solemn and sobering occasion of announcing the assassination of Martin Luther King. This practice of pausing, speaking in short sentences, has actually been a long-standing oration practice in the Kennedy family. One of the speechwriters for JFK, a speech crafter by the name of Ted Sorensen, talked about this was one of the rules of thumb that the Kennedy family would use in giving speeches. They would not typically compose sentences longer than 15 words. They would keep them short.
For those of you who are black, considering the evidence evidently is that there were white people who were responsible, you can be filled with bitterness and with hatred and a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country, in greater polarization, black people amongst blacks and white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that is spread across our land, with an effort to understand compassion.
Stain of bloodshed that spread across our land is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. That was something that no doubt was part of the prepared material. Including a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. is what's called an appeal to ethos. He's showing his credibility, that he's well-versed in the people he speaks on.
For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling.
If the words are arranged in a particular way, such that most people would struggle with their order or pronunciation, that is often perceived as articulate.
I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart.
There are certain words that you can start your sentences with. For is one of them. For as much as I wish to strive to be a good presenter on video, I can only admit that, and I might follow that up with something that makes sense in context to that sentence. That's something to keep in mind as an ingredient that plays into the recipe for a very powerful speech, is creating an uncommon ordering of words that most people typically struggle with.
I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times. My favorite poem, my favorite poet was Aeschylus. And he once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred.
That anaphora, what we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not, I believe hatred is what he said most recently. That is a rhetorical device known as anaphora, repeating a phrase or string of words at the beginning of a phrase or a clause. And what it often does, especially when you're using this and employing it in an impromptu speech, is it allows you to buy time to compose a profound conclusion. It allows you to buy time and fill the first two examples with often what is called buffer material. It allows you the opportunity to think about a great rhetorical punch factor.
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love.
So that would be the profound
and
conclusion.
Wisdom and compassion toward one another. Feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black.
What I find fascinating about that particular statement is he's using very simple words, but the environment and the emotions that people are feeling and the principles in which he speaks can really be a catalyst and amplify very basic rhetoric. Keep that in mind when you speak, it's not so much the particular words that you choose. It's the melody, the music, the magic that you use with your intonation, and all of that can be accelerated and amplified by the environment and the feelings that people are dealing with.
We can do well in this country. We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past, but we will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness, and it's not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country.
One of the simplest words that you can integrate into your vocabulary to sound more articulate is the word vast. Vast creates a sophisticated characterization of ordinary things. Vast number of people, the vast ocean in these vast, difficult times.
We want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land. And what dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Thank you very much.
It's a wonderful presentation, and I really do admire Bobby Kennedy's incredible speech, in part due to his magnificent impromptu ability to put words together. I think people really believed that he meant what he said, and this is something that he couldn't have prepared for because Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. I don't know exactly what the timeline was, but from my advanced reading on this speech, it was a few hours before. And I don't think anyone doubted his intentions or commitment to being sincere. And this desire to be, not desire, this ability to be sincere came from the moral clarity that he had that made him a great leader and a good spokesman for engaging in this very delicate situation. I'm going to end this video here. Thanks for watching, and let me know if there are any other speeches that you think deserve some good analysis.